topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
And welcome to Triversity Talk. I hope you're all having a fabulous Wednesday in this heat, although it could always be worse. It's 110 in some places. And my guest host tonight is the one and only Jay Michaels. I've been calling you, by the way, Notorious Jay Michaels. Do you like that?
I've been loving that.
I love that. It's like Notorious P.I.G. And hopefully we can get your name up soon so everybody knows that it's you and not an imposter. Jay Michaels, how are you? Very excited. This is your first time being a co-host on this show.
I am thrilled. Thank you so much for having me. God, what a gorgeous intro you have. Great video, great music. I'm sitting here going, wow, this is really good, this thing. Wow. I'm really flattered to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the kind words you said on our video montage. All of those people in that montage are in one way or another connected to Triversity, the Center for Pride. We are based out of Milford, Pennsylvania. However, this show is now, thanks to W4CY Radio, broadcast nationwide on every streaming platform. So I'm very proud of how far we've come. It's been a really great thing for all of us.
That is absolutely amazing. I'm so glad to hear that.
Now, Jay, you're a person that knows amazing. You're a PR person, yeah?
Yes. Well, I'm everything. I
want to hear it.
my first gig, really, my first professional gig, I handed copy to Bob Hope at Carnegie Hall while Skitch Henderson played. And if you know who those people are, then you know how long I've been doing this.
I am sure there are people listening that have no idea who you're talking about. I know who they all are, though.
Thank you. The insinuation is I've been doing this a long time. I've worked in the independent theater and film community since the 80s and before that even. I was part of the original off-Broadway movement. I've worked at like all of the historic spaces as an actor, director, producer, writer. Now in this chapter of my life, when I don't want to climb ladders to try to raise money for shows, I want to help. I want to help those who still are. And so, to all my colleagues, all the work I've done over the years in terms of promoting my own shows and working in corporate America, I want to give to the off-Broadway community. So I opened up my own PR firm, Jay Michaels Communications, and our main thing is independent theater and film, and it's getting visibility out there for those who unfortunately are invisible to the mainstream media.
And 100% in agreement with you. And really, thank you for what you're doing. You know, for people who are listening, so many people are independent producers now doing incredible off-Broadway shows. Well, how do you get your show out there? How do you sell tickets? How do you get people to come to your shows? You have a guy like Jay come, and he basically will help you to put your show on the map. I know I've attended a number of your shows, where one of the guests tonight came from. And
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and that was at Camp Morningwood, and we're going to talk more about that later. I love this show, which is just a really wonderful production. And then there have been other ones that you do. There was one that was way over on the west side of Manhattan that was like a combination of Midsummer Night's Dream and a whole lot of other things.
That was Midsummer the Shakespeareans. That was an immersive Shakespeare production set in like the jazz era, and it was quite an amazing production.
The cast, how many people were in that cast?
Not as many as you think. It was maybe about a dozen people, but they just came everywhere. They played double roles. They danced. They sang. There were moments I just blinked. It was really amazing.
It was a very entertaining evening, which is what it's all about, and really great. Sure. You know, you read some of the bios of some of these actors, and completely impressive. You know, these are the working actors, and we want to pay kudos to them every day. So if anyone is out there and you know you have friends or relatives, even support the arts, you know, come and watch what people are doing. Some of the most interesting things you'll find in the smallest little black box theaters all around the country. Well,
that's the point of independent theater.
Right.
When you go on Broadway, there's the cookie cutter. There's the thing to guarantee the tourist is going to love it.
Right.
But when you really want to see something that speaks to you, that talks about the world nowadays, that's where you go for the independent theater and film.
There you go, and I'm right on point with you there. Well, our guest tonight is an immersive theater artist, Mr. Dusty Rose, also known as Anthony Logan Cole, is a mysterious gentleman of variety. I love that, because variety is the spice of life, isn't it? And he came to New York to become a Broadway performer, but he fell sideways into a world of mind readers and mystics and charlatans. And you can come and see him at any given night at the Rose Room in New York City, where he brings his love of magic, theater, and circus to unique spaces. So, Anthony Logan Cole, come on in.
Hello, darlings. How are you?
How are you? A pleasure to have you with us, Dusty Rose, tonight.
It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I need to first off ask you, where did the name Dusty Rose come from?
Thank you. I was just going to ask it myself. Thank you.
It's a rather silly story. So
I'm sure.
One of my very dear friends had just bought an apartment in the city, which if you live here, you know what a big deal that is.
Yeah.
All the way up in Inwood. And we were traipsing around Manhattan one day, and I had just started working in nightlife, and I'm like, I need a nightlife name. So we go into the paint store that's on, I'm sure, Jay, you know it, on like 4th, 6th, and 10th.
Thank you.
That paint store, by the way, has been there for forever.
Yep.
I know the paint store too.
And so we were looking at paint swatches for her apartment. And I was jokingly being like, yes, Mr. Banana Yellow, Miss Snow White. And then we pulled out one that was Mr. Dusty Rose. And I'm like, I really like that. That is, and it's truly all because of the paint swatch that I now am Mr. Rose, that the Rose Room now exists.
I figured that there was a connection to the Rose Room. I never quite thought of you as a swatch, but now that you brought that up, it's like, wow, who could think that one swatch could affect a person's whole persona?
It's true.
You went there.
What happened?
There's a paint swatch called Bastard Amber. I'm so glad you didn't stop on that one.
Wait a minute, that's not a bad name, Mr. Bastard Amber.
It's my favorite color of gel for lighting. I really love putting. Yes, I'm a big fan of the Bastard.
I love it. So this name that you now have goes with the Rose Room. And for people that don't know, first of all, I have a question. There are a few Rose Rooms all over the country. Are they connected or are they separate? And what makes yours so different if they're not connected?
They're not connected.
Okay.
However, this Rose Room, the one that I'm sitting in right now, is Midtown Circus Speakeasy. We are truly in behind a secret door in the back of a bar in Midtown, and we are a secret little lounge that hosts some of the best of New York, cabaret variety circus, nightlife, performers, and shows. And
Wow.
it's truly a wonderful little intimate environment where customer service and experience is top priority. You are, as far as I'm concerned, anyone who walks through that secret door is my personal guest. And I will always make sure that you're treated as such.
So if I go there and say, I'm a friend of Mr. Dusty Rose, I'll be treated like royalty.
Of course.
Thank you. I will expect
Wendy, you are treated like royalty wherever you go. So there you go.
Thank you, Jay. That was the right thing to say. Thank you. Thank you. So it's behind a secret door. Are you allowed to tell people the location of this place, or is it pretty secret?
Yes, sure. I mean, make sure your name is on the list, because even if you find it, your name is not on the list, you're not getting in the door.
Wow.
It's at 358 West 44th Street, so right on the corner of 44th and 9th, back hidden behind the Producer's Lounge.
So it's behind the Producer's Lounge. Do you mind if I put that in the chat?
Please.
Okay, so it's 358 West
44th Street.
I know exactly where it is. The Rose Room. And it's behind the Producers Club. Now, what made you choose this clandestine location?
It was a very interesting experience. So we opened the first version of Rose Room a year ago. It came about because me and some of my fellow performers felt like getting rusty after not performing for nearly 2 years. So this all started in Bushwick in Brooklyn. We rented out Dollar Bill, which is a giant nightclub.
I love $3 Bill. I love that club. A lot of my friends have performed there. I'm sorry to jump in, but that's a great club. No. The only issue for people like me that live in Manhattan or people tourists that are visiting, by the time you get done with that Uber to Brooklyn, it's $60. $60 there and 60 back. And the subways, as we all know, have not been so safe these days. So thank you for bringing this to New York. Okay, keep going.
So this were designed initially to make money or anything. Just a chance for a bunch of us to get together once a week, shake off the cobwebs, test some new material. We used $3 Bill because it was massive, and we could play at 10% capacity. All of the tables were spaced 12 feet apart, and they were all 12 feet from the stage. So, at that point, that was the only way to do COVID-safe performance.
This is brilliant.
And so we started there, and then we moved. We got 4 or 5 different venues in the past year, and then Jason Chaos, who's one of our producers, who Jay has formed a very strong kinship with, who's one of the original Federation Club kids, had a connection here with this space. And they offered us the opportunity to, instead of sharing a club, sharing a theater, a bunch of other shows, we were invited to build our own space.
Was there nothing there when you first came?
No, this was an empty rehearsal studio that we gutted and built from scratch.
Wow. That's a very impressive story, I have to say. How long did it take you to build it out to a performance space?
Took us about a month and a half. And we're continuing to make updates, continuing to make changes, budget permitting.
Right.
The thing is, we got it where we were happy with it. And then as we get influxes of investors or corporate events, I'm able to add a little bit here, add a little bit there, add some more art, add some new lighting fixtures. but we've been called the most high-tech tiny room in Manhattan.
Wow.
We have a completely computerized lighting and sound system. We've got 6 moving heads. We've got haze. We've got kind of a full-service theatrical in this tiny little bathroom speak.
I totally love it. You've completely impressed me and tantalized me, because I have to come there and I'm dying to see what's going on. I love the whole grassroots quality of it. The fact that this is what creative people are all about, right, Jay? I mean, does
definitely.
this not define independent theater?
I was actually just thinking, which was really ironic, because your production scheme is really retro. The notion of the speakeasy, of the backroom situation of the circus, and yet you have all this high-tech equipment around it. So you're, yes, it is certainly indie all the way. And it's really ironic, go to see the last century with the best of this century. So that was really cool of you to do that.
We wanted to give the performers the best ability to connect with the audience.
Now, with the type of performers you have, did a lot, were they people that you worked with in Brooklyn on the performance art scene?
A lot of them came from my relationships either in theater, immersive, and nightlife. Before the pandemic, I was working at a nightclub in the East Village called The Box. So some of from my relationships.
Right, of course. That's right. And you did work there, because I remember reading about you. So just give a little history to people about The Box.
The Box is a boundary-pushing, edgy theater of varieties nightclub down in the East Village that has been around, I think, 15 years now.
Yeah, around.
And you will see the most astonishing, the most beautiful, the most vile and disgusting things on that stage.
Can you, right? Okay, so you cannot throw that into my universe. And I see Jay shaking his head. We want to know what kinds of things you're talking about, because we can't imagine what they were.
Oh, I can imagine, and that's part of the problem, I think.
There is a very famous act at The Box where a performer dressed as Anna Wintour takes poops on the stage.
Okay, all right, we can pass on that.
Yep.
Okay, that's kind of like, yeah, wow. And the performer was dressed like Anna Wintour from Vogue. It is very theatrical, right? Because
yes, you can't get theatrical.
You can't get more uppity, really, than like Anna Wintour. And certainly she's a caricature, and people they always use her as someone to poke fun at. But this is like, yeah, this really does go over the top. Oh my God. So in your space now, are you, tell me the kinds of acts, if someone goes there, what they can expect to see?
Thankfully at the Rose Room, currently, we do not have anyone taking groups on the stage. Okay. However, we do have, for example, a really fun and compelling wax play aerial act. We have a shibari rope duo that tie each other up and hoist each other into the ceiling. We have an upside down naked straitjacket escape. We have vocalists.
That's something I know Jay Michaels has secretly wanted to do his entire life. Be upside down in a straitjacket without a stitch of clothes on and try and do Houdini. It's Houdini influenced.
I'm sorry, I have a hairy chest. I can see the buckles pulling on the hair. I don't know.
Right. In a straitjacket.
You'd be fine. Yeah. You'd be fine. So, and we have the best of New York's magicians, drag queens. Our cocktails and cabaret shows are often hosted by people like Shirley and Lee Allen Barrett. And
okay, so you have to tell us who some of those performers are. Let's start with Shirley Ujest.
Shirley Udeth is probably one of my favorite drag queens in all of New York. She hosts a lot of our early shows. She is a kinky, queer, fabulous musical theater drag queen who is also a pro dom. We have lots of fun. Last night, she sang some shows and then tied up and flogged an audience member. So, something.
There you go. One-stop shopping.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're losing Jay on this one. And let me ask you, was he so the people that come to this, they know what they're getting themselves into?
I hope so. We make our marketing fairly clear. However, sometimes people show up and they've just heard good things and they don't know what they're in for. So we try and ease them into it. We try and make sure they have a good experience. One thing that we say at the beginning of all of our shows is consent is not only sexy, it's mandatory. That goes for performers and audience. The moment that someone feels uncomfortable, we will go out of our way to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable. No one is ever engaged with their full permission and consent and understanding. And I think that is the way to audience. And when you treat your audience that way, your performers the same way.
Right. And
I give you a lot of credit. Okay. I give you a lot of credit. I remember the days of kink in the 80s where it's a secret knock on that door down by the West Side Highway and whatever. And you're making kink very theatrical, very accessible to an audience. And that's happening all over. We see that in the movies. We see that all over. So so you could go and see the next generation, if you will, of something as interesting and diverse as kink itself.
But isn't that interesting that they're doing it, Jay, with a speakeasy? Don't you love the combination? It's like combining, like you said, it's combining two times, really.
Yep. I think it's great. It gives it class. It gives it class. You're going into this speakeasy, this is the elite place, and do these things. It gives it a very, while it's accessible, you feel like you're doing something special that not everybody can do.
Well, it's something forbidden, a little forbidden. Maybe that's the
term. Love that word. Yeah. Love that word. Yes.
Forbidden, the forbidden fruit. So, how many?
The word that we use here in this room is illicit. We want it to feel illicit.
Illicit. I like that. I'll take illicit over for forbidden. So, so how many people does the space hold in terms of audience?
We max out at 55 people.
Okay, so it's really a more small, intimate audience.
The way we like it, we found that when we were venue hopping, we kept moving to bigger and bigger venues, and the experience started to change. It stopped being exactly what we were trying to build. So we said, we had the chance to build this experience, this space for us. Let's keep it intimate. Let's keep it small. Let's keep it personal. I think the problem is, and this is the reason why Immersive Theater has blown up, is that we're all glued to our phones. We're all attached to, it's all about this kind of impersonal experience in our lives that we want to create a very personal experience for our audience. You are greeted, you are personally sat, you are, taken care of from the moment you walk in the door to the moment you leave.
What a really great idea. I'm wondering, what is the makeup of your audience? Is it more tourists? Is it more local?
Honestly, I would say it's a healthy mix. Have the locals who come regularly, and then we have the tourists who have heard from people at this spot. And those are the ones who come in and sometimes have no idea where they are, what's about to happen. And Alan Barrett, who's our resident magician, has this whole bit where he says, for those who who you are or where you are. Sit back, relax, have a good time. We'll get home after. Not me, but someone else will make sure you get home after. And like part of our
You cut out a little bit there, Dusty Rose. You just cut out.
No,
Just say that. Yeah, it's a little crackly there. I want to hear that again, though.
Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah.
Now you're good.
You're good. You're good now. I love the way that you take care of your audience. You know, a lot of things are very impersonal now. I mean, you all started, we were talking about the phone and the fact that we're in our phones all the time. We're walking down the street in our phones. Certainly people have become disconnected, as well connected as they are electronically. They have become disconnected to experience.
Yep.
So
yep.
Kudos to you, Dusty Rose, for making sure they have a memorable experience, for taking care of people. I'm sure you make them shut their phones off when they come in there.
We try. The idea is that the setting is and that are you have to.
Yeah, it's breaking up a little bit. Maybe it's the headphones, or it's breaking up a little bit. And I'm really interested in everything that you have to say. My next question, ups, and now we lost him. It's just, Jay, that was magic. That was magic.
Well, of course, he started the show. Poof! He'll be back. Wow. I'm sure he'll be right back.
But what else would you expect from Mr. Dusty Rose? Because, right, he works with magicians. He gave us all the clues, Jay. He said they have a resident magician, right? There's a magician that's there all the time. So
and there you go.
And there you go. You know, Anthony Logan Cole is here 1 minute and then gone the next. Wow.
And I'm sure he's going to pop right back. I
bet you he will pop right back in. But you know what, Jay? This is an immersive experience for you and me. Here we are, live streaming, and we're immersed, and our guest has totally disappeared. And by the way, this is not the first time I've had that happen. It is called the beauty of live stream. But while we're waiting,
the theatrical equivalent of like the set falling on you during a performance.
I love it. Yes, it is. But you know what? There's no black and blues. Nobody gets hurt. There's no lawsuits involved. Your guest just disappears into cyberspace. But this is a perfect opportunity, Jay, for you and I to talk. Like, what turns you on so much about, you know, representing places like the Rose Room, or the show that I first met Anthony Logan Cole in, which was Camp Morningwood. What is it about that? A lot of the pieces, they're not just independent pieces that you represent. They're curious, they're interesting, and they're not mainstream. What is it you?
That's basically it. You just said it right there. When you go mainstream. Now, I spent many years working in corporate America. I worked on Broadway. I worked for regular studios. I've worked for national tours. I was actually a tour manager, national tour manager for Cats, for Les Mis, for Edwin Drood, for several other shows. And while these are amazing, they're huge, they're gorgeous. I dealt with Phantom of the Opera at one point. These are gorgeous. These are thrilling pieces, and they're wonderful. Yeah. They're set right where they are. That's it. What you're going to see this day is what you're going to see that day. They have to. They have to on so many levels.
So this is big bucks. These are big bucks productions. So there, you know what I'm saying? There's no room for loosey-goosey, and there's no room to lose money.
But there's the joy, that loosey-goosey. That's the fascinating aspect.
Jay Michaels likes the loosey-goosey.
Well, okay, yeah. Yes, but when you go see something independent, when you go see something off Broadway or off Broadway, there's a risk being taken to this day. They're telling you a story that maybe the tourists don't want to hear. They're telling you about something going on in the world. They're writing a play about what's happening now. The whole off Broadway movement was that way. Even when you think about it, the formation of off Broadway with plays like Cradle Will Rock as part of the Federal Theater, they're basically they're the theater of protest. They're telling you what's going on out there on stage.
It can be the politics, it can be, the personal thing, it can be the culture, how the culture is evolving.
Of course. Even in the days of Shakespeare, he himself knew that people learned history from the plays. Right. Richard III was actually just a very paranoid king with scoliosis. But
okay, come on, are you kidding?
I'm dead serious. He was a maligned, paranoid king, and he had severe scoliosis. Wow. But he wrote him to be a monster, and so history reflects him as a monster. So what the plays give, what the plays do, that's what we remember. And these little theaters, these 55 seaters, those are the places where we see history being told.
Right. In an entertaining way. And look, oh my God, not only is Dusty Rose back, but he came back like you were taken over by a spirit, because your eyes right now are just glowing. This is magic. This is the truth of what is happening at the Rose Room. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
I can hear you now. Please don't apologize.
There you go.
We thought you were giving us an example of the kind of magic that we could expect. And it was amazing that you disappeared the way you did from the live stream. I thought maybe you were going to come back like in that straitjacket with no clothes hanging upside down. I was ready.
I thought about appearing behind you in your apartment, Wendy. I thought that would be the best.
I was about to say that. I was about to say, just look behind you. I was about to say it. Good for you. Good for you.
It's the spirits of the Rose Room, mostly vodka and tequila. But the spirits are potent and strong here.
No, well, that was one of the questions. I'll start with the easy one first. I have two. Do you serve fancy cocktails? I love those. What kind of cocktails?
Yes.
I figured.
We have custom cocktails named after some of our resident performers. So not only can you enjoy a cocktail, you can pick the one that reflects your favorite performer.
Oh, I love that. And my next question for you, is the space haunted?
I think so. So I do a little seance show in the Rose Room occasionally.
Well, we'll sit down. We'll have a little seance. We'll pull out the Ouija board.
But needless to say, this seance is based on
we can still hear you.
Okay, good. This seance is based on all the things that I learned studying the fraudulent Victorian charlatans and mediums.
Got it.
And so, as somebody who's performing a seance that's 100% fake, when something happens that's not something that I control, it's extra spooky.
Wow.
Has that happened? Has something happened that you said, well, wait a minute, that's not the string, that's not the glove that I'm using. What's going on?
So I'm constantly adding art to the Rose Room. And I was at a a vintage yard sale. And I found this portrait of this like creepy, chubby Victorian child. And I was like, I must have this creepy, chubby Victorian child in the Rose Room.
Absolutely.
Sometimes this creepy, chubby Victorian child will just move. The frame will shift sometimes.
For no reason.
Just very unsettling.
Wow. I have to come there because I can feel those things. And right now you're broadcasting from there, right?
I am.
And
this is our neon rose, which is currently turned off.
I'm getting stuff even watching you on here. Your vibe is very, very different from where Jay is, or even where I am. So this is very interesting that this kind of stuff happens to you. Have you always had an interest in magic and the occult?
I have. I grew up overseas, traveling a lot as a child.
Were you an army brat?
State Department.
C. Foreman brat.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was those stories, it was the folk tales, it was the ghost stories that always connected with me the most.
Wow. Even as a little kid. Were you the only one in your family like this, or do you take? I grew up with all of this. My grandmother came to this country and read tea leaves, and my mother would hear knocks on the door, and she would say, "Oh, so and so just died." So I grew up with this stuff, you know. And
I am the black sheep. I'm definitely the black sheep of my family.
Right.
My parents do not understand a single thing about what I do for a living.
What's happening to Anthony? Is he earning a living?
Why isn't he a doctor?
Why isn't he a doctor?
Now, my brother thinks he's a doctor.
That's scary, right? And he's not. So, okay, that's much scarier than all the good, clean, healthy fun you're having.
I got to try that with my mother. Maybe that'll quiet her down. Mom, I think I'm a doctor. Maybe that'll work.
Right.
So he got his DPT, which is Doctor of Physical Therapy.
Okay.
And they gave him like a white coat with his name on it. And he's like, I'm a doctor now. And I'm like, you're not curing cancer. I'll call you if I have a cramp.
That's so right. That's so funny. But you know what? You're a doctor too, Mr. Dusty Rose, okay? You're a doctor of spirits. You're a doctor of magic. And you're a doctor of experience. And one of the experiences I would like for you to share with our audience is I first became aware of you in the biblical sense at a show called Camp Morningwood. Can you tell us a little bit about that show? Because that was during the pandemic.
Yeah, I actually started with the show pre-pandemic. We did a run at Playwrights Horizons on 42nd Street. And so I was part of the original company that did Playwrights Horizons and then opened it down in Chelsea as the pandemic we thought was tapering off.
Right.
It is a musical set in a gay nudist camp.
Loved it.
All of us were naked, like completely naked, about 80% of the show.
Yeah.
It is not something that I had ever done. It is not something I had any experience with. I'm a big, stocky, hairy dude who has always had kind of not nice relationship with my own body. I do not love my body. I am learning to, but I do not super love my body. And so when I was cast in this show, I fell in love with the script. I fell in love with the score. I fell in love with the people. And I thought, I'm going to overcome these feelings that I have about myself to be an artist and tell this story.
Wow. Wow. And you know what? You did. And as someone who came to see the play, this is what blew me away, you know, because I was told by both Tim Moss, I think, who was hosting that night, and Jed Ryan, who had hosted at another point. They said to me, you know, everyone's naked in the show. And I'm like, okay, I think I did see one show once in my lifetime. Oh, Calcutta. Jay, you remember
Calcutta.
that?
Yep, that's a famous one. Yep.
I remember
Yeah,
it very well.
that was the only one I've ever seen. So, you know, we're in this pandemic and I was happy to be going to anything. I thought it was really great. I wanted to come and support the show. And after the first 3 minutes, I have to tell you something. You didn't notice that people didn't have clothes on. And that psychologically, that was a mind opener for me just in general. That you know, people wearing clothes has become such a pivotal thing, right? Nudists know otherwise. People that go to nudist colonies or nudist beaches or nudist campgrounds, which in essential Camp Morningwood was a nudist campground. But what really blew me away, you know, just sitting there watching the play, I didn't notice the no clothes. I noticed the actors were all terrific. All right. The sets were absolutely beautiful. And you felt like you were at the camp, you know, which was so great. The writing was excellent. The jokes landed one on top of the next, on top of the next. The musical numbers. It was really an incredible show. And to me, had very little to do with nudity. So there you have it.
I was going to say
the
that's
show's
how you
about,
know
like,
that's how you know a show is good.
Thank you.
In such a situation, if you forget if you're just noticing that everyone's naked, okay, something's wrong with the script, something's wrong with the performance.
Right, because you're
If
bored
just-
and you're noticing the wrong thing.
Exactly. If what a theater critic once said, if you're conscious of your ass, then the show has failed. And in this case, yeah, if we're conscious of their asses, then something's wrong with the show.
Right.
But they were absolutely stunning. They were virtuosos, and so you enjoyed the show. Okay, by the way, they're naked.
And what was interesting is it was all kind of non-sexual nudity. There was
totally,
it was just about a bunch of average, normal guys who go to this camp every year and learn things about themselves.
Right. And I think that's also, Jay, that for me, I love the message of it. The whole show was so positive, and with everything that had happened during the pandemic, first of all, seeing all these actors working up there. And I spoke to you after the show. I came right up to you because I asked you, how did you all rehearse for this? How did you had done a lot of rehearsal on Zoom. Am I correct?
We had done a couple of readings on Zoom. The rehearsal process was really interesting, especially the first time that we did the show. We rehearsed for 4 weeks in the studio, like any musical. Right. The now much beloved and gone Alchemical Studios on 14th Street.
Really?
Yep, they're gone.
They
announced that they're closing forever.
Yep, they didn't survive.
Yeah.
Oh, they had that gorgeous white box.
Yep.
That was so amazing. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, too bad.
But what's really interesting is we rehearsed like a normal musical, completely clothed all the time. And so we actually ended up asking the producers our last week in the studio, can we like do a run in our underwear? Because things move a little differently when you're naked.
That's one way to put it. Yes, sir.
Anthony, you're right. It's like working with a prop, right, Jay? Isn't it the truth? Like it's like if you rehearse without your props and then you have a prop. It's a different experience.
It's a different experience. And the producer said, for many reasons we can't do that. So we didn't get naked until we were in the theater. We had undress rehearsals. They brought in an intimacy coordinator who helped us kind of ease through that process. So one day during TAC, he's like, okay, let's all just take our shirts off. We worked that whole day without our shirts on. Okay. The next day, he's like, okay, come in wearing comfortable underwear. Like we're going to work in our underwear. About halfway through the day, he's like, if you're comfortable taking off your underwear, let's take them off. We all had robes in the wings. And so for the first day, whenever you weren't on stage, everyone was like diving for their robes. And after that, no one really cared. It was a very like liberating, lovely experience with a group of guys who it really became a brotherhood. We all looked out for each other. We all cared about each other very deeply. And we all were always there to make each other feel safe and comfortable and supported.
Well, what was very obvious was that relationship when you all were on stage. And I think that's what worked for me so well. Like Jay, I do go to mostly things that I see are off Broadway. A lot of them my friends are in. And when I see actors, when it's all working, right? When the actors are working and the jokes, because I do comedy, you got to make me laugh. The jokes were great. Everything about it. And your sets were absolutely beautiful. And there was a level of sophistication in the songwriting. It was really a perfect piece. And you know what? I hope that you all get to do it again.
I do too. Until then, several of those cast members now work at the Rose Room.
Perfect, right?
Stupendous. Oh, that's great. Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
Of course. That makes total sense. Now, in terms of your own career, you're in the Rose Room now. What else do you have on tap ahead? So
we're continuing to build and expand the Rose Room. We do have soft offers to open a Rose Room in London and a Rose Room in Vegas.
Wow.
So we are figuring out maybe the logistics of that. Obviously, like if Broadway calls, I will go running back in a heartbeat. You know, I did Les Mis for 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
I come from the musical theater before I found anything else. But the nice thing is working here, creating here, I treat our show as if it was a musical.
And
Les
that's
Mis on Broadway. You were in Les Mis on Broadway.
I did Les Mis a whole bunch of places. I literally spent a couple years of my life pinging around to various productions, covering, filling in.
But your voice is the thing I remember as the training when you opened up your mouth to sing. You know, everybody was great, but you have a really trained voice.
Thank you so much. The nice thing is I get to treat this like a musical. So every the Upside Down Naked Straitjacket Escape, when we were creating that act for here, it was, what is the story?
Right.
What are we trying to convey? And Saint Knightley, who's the wonderful performer who does that act, is non-binary. And we sat down let's make this Straitjacket Escape about freeing yourself from the confines of
gender.
Of gender and what people have put upon you.
Brilliant.
I knew you were going to say that. The moment you said a non-binary performer, I said, okay, now I see the production scheme of this. And it's brilliant. It's really excellent.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
And we love those kinds of things. The nice thing is, even when we have big celebrities come and perform here, we have, if you've never seen Opera Gaga, she's a pole dancing aerialist opera singer. Amazing. Legend.
She's great. She does the pole and aerials while singing opera.
Correct. She'll hang upside down from an apparatus, swinging around while singing an aria with no microphone.
Oh my God. How do you make it come out of your diaphragm upside down?
Legend. I listen, talk about training. Talk about training.
Yeah, really. No, that's wow.
But even when she's here, even when we have people who've been doing their acts for 10 years, the nice thing is we get to sit down and say, let's look at this fresh. Right. Let's dial in on what's the story, what's the experience, because in a room this intimate, it's about connecting with the audience.
Right.
If it doesn't land emotionally with the audience, for me, I don't care how impressive juggling flaming knives above your head is. Unless it makes an emotional connection, then, I don't care as much about it.
Wow. It's all about the emotional connection. Well, we are down to our last minute. So you can say whatever you want to say right now.
Please come visit us at the Rose Room. We are a group of queer artists who are creating a space for queer audience members, queer artists. You'll see amazing things, but also you'll be safe to be yourself here.
Love it.
That is what we stand for. That's what we believe in. If you're in New York, if you're in Hell's Kitchen, make this your regular spot. Come by. Become part of our family, because that's what we created this space for. And for everyone out there who's struggling right now, as artists, as queer people, we are continuing to fight this fight for you, and we love you, and keep being yourself.
Yeah.
Because who the hell wants to be anything else?
Oh my God, that's you need to sell Rose Room t-shirts that say keep being yourself, because who the hell wants to be anyone else? That is so absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on here tonight. A sheer pleasure. I want people to visit the Rose Room. The address one more time is, I wrote it in the chat, 358 West 44th, through a secret door at the Producers Club. And one more thing right before we go, everyone look at me and say cheese. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who tuned in tonight. We'll be back next week. Dusty Rose, have a fabulous week. Jay Michaels, you, sir, I'll be seeing again. Good
For
night,
sure.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.